dealing with in these chapters, especially 9 and 10 here, but also I would say later on, up to the end of the book, has to do with a great conflict, difficulties, oppression, destruction. They're not very, I would say, positive and encouraging words. If we see the reactions of Daniel, how he reacts to this. What is it about? It's about the destiny of the people of God, the destiny of Israel, in the last days, or in the Messianic age. Clearly, it has to do, especially in chapter 9, we saw that the 70 weeks has to do at the time when the Messiah, the Savior, comes. When the Savior comes, it's kind of a paradox. When the Savior comes, you would expect everything to be great. Wow, it's wonderful. The Messiah is coming, so everything is going to be wonderful. It's going to be paradise on earth. All our enemies are going to be dealt with. Well, actually, it's the opposite. And that's shocking. That's shocking. When the Messiah comes, in these visions, it's conflict. It's huge difficulties for the people of God. It's things that are incredible that are going to happen, like we saw already in chapter 9. And of course, the key verses is in chapter 9, we just saw before, in verses 24 all the way to 27. And a great part of that, a good part of that, is the destruction of the sanctuary. Because remember that the sanctuary was destroyed. The temple, the holy place of God, was destroyed by Nebuchadnezzar in 586. Daniel was taken captive and others, and they're waiting, they're expecting for their deliverance at this point. First, that will be mentioned later. But they're waiting for their deliverance. It's been about 70 years that they've been captives, and the prophet Jeremiah had mentioned, I think in chapter 25, Jeremiah, that after 70 years God would liberate them and they would rebuild their temple, which is great. But here we have a vision that actually when the Messiah comes, the temple will be destroyed. And if the temple is destroyed, the whole system is in jeopardy. It's problematic for the people of God, the people of Israel. And so it is a very difficult revelation. We see the reaction of Daniel. So he says, in those days, I, Daniel, was mourning for 3 weeks. So he's in a condition of mourning. Why? Because right before, in chapter 9, we saw what I was talking about, the terrible things that are going to happen at this time, this period, which is the last days, which the last days describe, or the end of the times, or the last days, describe the Messianic age. When the Messiah comes, it's not going to be all rosy and all nice and all honeycomb and all sweet. I was reading something today that's interesting, that a couple has decided this year in the manger. You know, in the manger, what kind of animals do you have? The sheep? What is it, the donkey? I don't even know. I don't do mangers. The donkey, and that's it. Well, this couple decided this year they're going to have a red dragon in the manger. Why? Because the dragon is there. The dragon is there, according to Revelation. And when the baby is born, he immediately tries to kill him. And is attacking the baby all the time. He's attacking that Messiah all the time, every minute, every day of his life. He was under the threat of that dragon. So the dragon is there in the manger, right there in the beginning. In fact, the dragon is there even before. But I thought that was kind of strange, but there is some significance to that. So put a dragon in your manger if you have a manger. People can ask you, what is he doing there? Well, there's a reason why I put a dragon there. Anyway, it's kind of... So I was mourning for 3 weeks. I ate no delicacies, no meat or wine entered my mouth, nor did I anoint myself at all for the full 3 weeks. So he's in a state of grief because of the revelation he's received in chapter 9, which we looked at last time. On the 24th day of the first month, as I was standing on the bank of the great river, which is the Tigris, they explained to us, these are the Euphrates and the Tigris, so this is the land of Babylon that has been conquered by Cyrus. I lifted up my eyes and looked, and behold, a man clothed in linen, with a belt of fine gold from Uphaz around his waist. His body was like beryl, his face like the appearance of lightning, his eyes like flaming torches, his arms and legs like the gleam of burnished bronze, and the sound of his words like the sound of a multitude. Quite impressive. Now, he looks like a man. He seems that he has the appearance of a man, but with all this other stuff here. Now we learn that actually that's an archangel. He resembles a man. When the angel appears, when the angels appear in the Old Testament, not all the time, but most of the time, they appear in the form of a man because they're speaking in the form of a man. But it's probably kind of unusual the way they look. I've never seen one, but in the Bible they're pretty unusual. I, Daniel, alone saw the vision, for the men who were with me did not see the vision, but a great trembling fell upon them, and they fled to hide themselves. When Saul was traveling to kill and arrest and imprison the Christians on the way to Damascus, you remember that the Lord appeared to him in a light, blinding light, because he was blinded, but only him saw the vision. Same thing here. It's kind of interesting to me that only Daniel sees the vision, but not, they don't see the vision. Only he does. The men who were with me did not see the vision, but a great trembling fell upon them, and they fled to hide themselves. They don't see the vision, but there's something going on. They don't know what it is. This is the supernatural that intervenes. The supernatural comes. It's like when you see a ghost, normally you run away in the movies, you see a ghost, something like that. No, it's really unusual. Something happened. It doesn't give the details here. But when the supernatural world intervenes, something happens. And even they don't have to see the vision to be scared and to run away. And so they are pretty moved by whatever is going on here. So of course there are people who say these were extraterrestrials. Well, in some sense they were extraterrestrials, but I don't think from any planet, in the universe, but from God's kingdom. Well, there are extraterrestrials in that sense. So then I was left alone, and I saw this great vision, and no strength was left in me. My radiant appearance was fearfully changed, and I retained no strength. And then I heard the sound of his words, and as I heard the sound of his words, I fell on my face in deep sleep with my face to the ground. All that he's explaining here of his reactions and how he felt is this vision that he's received before, that we talk about in chapter 9. This terrible catastrophe that's going to happen during the 70 weeks, and especially the last week, which of course is the Messianic time. So behold, a hand touched me and set me trembling on my hands and knees. And he said to me, he can't even get up here, he's on his hands and knees. O Daniel, man greatly loved, are words of comfort. The angel that appears and is fearful and scary always comforts the righteous one. Don't be afraid. It's the same with Gabriel when he appears to Mary, or whenever the archangel, the angel appears. He reassures, he comforts. He says, Daniel, man greatly loved by God, mostly, but also by the faithful. Understand the words that I speak to you and stand up upright. So he's not standing up, he can't even get up. For now I have been sent to you. And when he had spoken this word to me, I stood up trembling. And then he said to me, fear not, Daniel. For from the first day that you set your heart to understand and humbled yourself before your God, your words have been heard, and I have come because of your words. It goes back even before, especially in chapter 9, when you remember that Daniel confessed the sins of the people, why they had been taken into captivity, and how he confessed his sins and even his own sins in the mix. Thinking, we're all lost, we're all bad. Even me, we're all bad, and we deserve what we got. And so he humbled himself before God. And he begged God, he pleaded with God for the time had come for the people to be freed, to go back to their land. So this man who looks like a man who is in this fire and this lightning, who speaks with a voice that sounds like a multitude. Now realize that multitudes is thousands and thousands, thousands. If you hear a voice that sounds like thousands and thousands, that's pretty impressive, and that speaks the same thing. It's like if you were in a place with 20,000 people and they all spoke exactly the same thing at the same time, it'd be a little awkward. Impressive. And that's what he hears. So he's not hearing just a voice, he's hearing a multitude of voices speaking this message. It's very interesting. So here's what he says to Daniel. The prince of the kingdom of Persia withstood me 21 days. Okay? But Michael, one of the chief princes, came to help me. For I was